and welcome to the only table where the screams are the appetizers, and the fear is the main course. Pull up a chair, if you dare. Tonight, the shadows are stretching long, the floorboards are creaking with unseen footsteps, and the air is thick with a whisper you can't quite place. You're listening to the Scare Table, where we serve up the deepest, darkest, and most delightful chills the world has to offer. We have set a place just for you. Get ready to feast on true tales of terror, unsettling legends, and the bizarre happenings that defy explanation. Turn down the lights, lock the doors, and maybe check what's standing behind you. It's time to gather round the Scare Table. Let the haunting begin.
Pull up a stool and lock your perimeter. I'm Chloe, and this is the Scare Table, your weekly forensic genre workshop, broadcasting every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, powered exclusively by the Horror Hub at ghostfacehorror.com. Before we put tonight's target on the surgical slab, let's handle the perimeter checks. If you want to see how your own tactical survival odds match up against the genre's heaviest threats, head over to the site right now to run our interactive slasher survival odds calculator. While you're logged into the digital fortress, you can audit the hard data on our master kill sheets, read our latest script deep dives, or just crank up the dark industrial covers streaming 24/7 on the Ghostface Horror radio feed. But tonight, we are dropping the studio lights to zero to dissect a massive, critically acclaimed cinematic heavyweight. Tonight, the crew is executing a macro-level thematic autopsy on Ryan Coogler's 1932 Jim Crow vampire period piece, Sinners, 2025. All right, let's skip the clinical preamble tonight and get straight to the blood on the floor. Ryan Coogler's Sinners is an absolute cinematic heavyweight. The way he anchors an ancient Gothic vampire lineage directly into 1930s Deep South, using an old sawmill turned juke joint as the final tactical defensive perimeter, is pure genius. It's heavy, it's atmospheric, and it has actual soul.
Yeah, it's got a soul, Chloe, but it doesn't have any damn guts. That's my problem. Look, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Michael B. Jordan turns in a powerhouse performance playing identical twins, and the blues music setting is cool. But man, it's a horror movie about vampires and the KKK besieging an old sawmill juke joint at dawn. That is a legendary grindhouse setup. And yet every single time the teeth hit the throat, Coogler pulls the camera away. Mary gets turned, off camera. Stack's death and transformation, off camera. Yeah, we get the bloody aftermath, but we want the gory kills. Even Smoke's final stand is this quiet, poetic fade-out. For a movie called Sinners, it is practically mild on screen. It got so bogged down in its own high-minded thematic messaging that it forgot to be a terrifying monster movie.
Marcus, you are completely misreading the entire architectural blueprint of the film. The restraint isn't a flaw, it's the engine that makes the movie work. The fact that the violence happens in the deep shadows and silhouette isn't a cop-out. It mirrors the real-world historical erasure of that entire community. If Coogler just gave you a trashy, practical FX gore fest like Terrifier, it would completely shrink the scale of what these characters are fighting for. The Jim Crow landscape is the horror. That's what elevates this into a masterpiece.
Oh, come on, Shane. Don't give me the artsy shadow excuse. You can have profound historical metaphors and actual on-screen splatter. Look at the structure of the script. It is a straight-up, unadulterated From Dusk Till Dawn ripoff. It's the exact same layout, a gritty, slow-burn crime and family drama for the first half, and then a sudden, jarring supernatural pivot into a single-location vampire siege at a bar. Except Dusk Till Dawn actually had the nerve to show the chaos.
Hold on, Marcus, because you're actually right about the blueprint. It is a total From Dusk Till Dawn ripoff structurally. But here is where I completely leave you behind. I don't care that it's a copy, because Sinners is vastly superior in every single category. The story is deeper, the psychological stakes are higher, and the vampire mechanics are terrifying. Jack O'Connell's character operating as a localized neurological hive mind, where turning someone completely wipes their identity and syncs them to his voice, is a brilliant metaphor for cultural appropriation and colonial control. It's a vastly better film than Dusk Till Dawn.
Whoa, Chloe. Now I'm splitting from you. Better than From Dusk Till Dawn? Absolutely not. You can't just casually throw shade at a masterclass of practical action horror. And calling Sinners a ripoff completely diminishes what Coogler achieved here. It stands entirely on its own 2 feet. The way the supernatural magnetism of Sammy's blues music accidentally draws the entity in, that's original folklore, not a B-movie clone.
Thank you, Shane. Finally, some sense. Chloe, you've officially lost your mind under the studio lights tonight if you think this touches the titty twister siege. And let's talk about that hive mind you love so much. By making every turned vampire just a mindless, automated drone synced to Remek's voice, Coogler actually stripped the movie of its personal horror. The moment Mary or Stack get turned, their personal conflict is gone. They just become faceless zombies. It takes away the tragic, personal stakes of a brother having to fight his own infected twin.
It doesn't take away the stakes, Marcus. It changes the nature of the trauma. The horror isn't just that your brother wants to bite you. It's that his entire mind, his history, and his identity have been completely erased and colonized by the villain. That is 1,000,000 times more terrifying than a standard zombie brother fight scene. The fact that an elderly Sammy is still dealing with the fallout of that single night all the way in 1992 Chicago proves how deep that psychological rot ran.
Exactly. It's a tragic, multi-generational Gothic story. Marcus is just mad his clipboard doesn't have enough wet ink on it tonight to satisfy his gore quota.
Man, I just want a horror movie to commit to the bit. Don't build a powder keg at a sawmill juke joint and then light it with a damp match. It's an okay film, but it's sitting at a lukewarm C+ for me.
And it's a definitive, glowing A grade for me. The spatial execution is flawless.
Same here. I'm a massive fan. It's easily one of the most atmospheric triumphs of the year, even if Marcus wants to cry about the shadows. But that's the debate.
That's the debate, my ass.
You want to keep going? Good, because we haven't even touched the absolute core engine of this entire movie. Sammy's music and the sequence where he pierces the veil. Marcus, you're crying about bloody neck bites, but Miles Caton playing Sammy in that juke joint is one of the most insane visual and sonic sequences in modern horror. When he starts playing that transcendent blues guitar, Coogler uses this sweeping, anachronistic camera movement that literally shows the ancestral spirits of past and future black musicians materializing in the crowd. That isn't just a cool party scene. It is the literal magnet that draws Remek and his vampires to the mill in the first place.
Oh, I'll give you credit on the music, Shane. It sounded amazing. But let's talk about the thematic hypocrisy of Remek and his vampire hive. Remek stands outside the juke joint offering immortality and freedom from racism to the survivors. He literally tells them, "Join us and you'll never be hunted by the white man again." But what does he actually do? He turns some of the local KKK Klansmen into his vampire thralls. He uses white supremacy as his muscle and then tries to lecture Sammy and Smoke about unity and liberation. It's complete brainwashing. He wants Sammy because he wants to steal black culture, appropriate the blues, and replace it with his own Celtic folk songs.
Bingo, Marcus! You finally hit on the true clinical rot. Remek isn't offering freedom. He's offering assimilation through cultural death. Look at what happens when the vampires take over the partygoers. They literally stop playing the blues and start singing Rocky Road to Dublin in unison as a hive mind. That is the ultimate macroscopic horror of the film. It's a direct metaphor for how black art and culture get colonized, stripped of their ancestral identity, and repackaged by mainstream oppressors. And can we talk about Annie and her hoodoo practices? Wunmi Mosaku plays Annie with so much tragic weight. While Smoke relies entirely on his gangster mindset and cold cash, Annie is the only one who actually understands spiritual defense, using garlic juice, wood, and ancestral magic to fight back when Christian prayers fail completely.
Yes, and look at how Smoke's cynicism clashes with Annie's faith. Smoke lost their infant daughter and completely abandoned Hoodoo, thinking only money and power could protect his family. But at the end of the night, Money couldn't save the juke joint because company script made the business unprofitable anyway. The system was rigged from the start. And what about Grace Chow? That scene where Grace, the Chinese shopkeeper, invites the vampires inside because Remick threatened her daughter Lisa? That broke the entire defensive line. It shows how the entity weaponizes family trauma to force a breach in the perimeter.
That Grace Chow scene was wild, I'll give you that. But what about the 1992 epilogue in Chicago? That's the part that blew my mind. 60 years later, Sammy is an old man playing blues in a club, and an ageless Stack and Mary, who are still vampires, walk in to watch him perform. Stack reveals that Smoke spared him on his deathbed back in 1932, as long as Stack promised never to harm Sammy. They offer Sammy immortality again, and Sammy turns it down. He tells them that despite all the tragedy and bloodshed of that single night at the sawmill, it was still the greatest day of his life because he got to play pure, unadulterated music with his family.
And that ending is why Sinners is a masterpiece, Marcus. Sammy chose mortality, pain, and authenticity over an immortal life of stolen agency. He stayed true to his roots. Smoke killed the clan, burned the vampires in the sunrise, and reunited with Annie in the afterlife. It proves that even when systemic evil and supernatural monsters take everything from you, the human spirit and cultural legacy cannot be erased.
All right, fine. The story is incredible, the themes are deep, and the 1992 ending hit hard. I still wanted more gore during the siege, but I can't deny that Ryan Coogler built one hell of a movie.
That's the closest we'll ever get to Marcus giving a full endorsement.
Hold on. Do not put words in my mouth, Shane, because you are completely misrepresenting my point. I never said Sinners was a bad movie. It's a great piece of cinema. The acting from Michael B. Jordan is top tier, the cinematography is gorgeous, and the 1992 epilogue gave me chills. But a great historical drama does not automatically equal a great horror film. As an entry in the horror genre, it falls short because it pulls its punches right when it needs to swing hardest. I completely get the subtext. I understand the racism, the institutional oppression, and the cultural erasure. Look at the time period. It's 1932 Mississippi. Of course, those heavy, suffocating themes come with the territory. Coogler didn't invent those dynamics for the script. They are baked directly into the historical reality of the Jim Crow South. That's why those elements work so naturally in the first two acts. My issue isn't that the subtext is there. My issue is that Coogler used those themes as a shield to avoid executing a truly relentless third act. You can respect the historical tragedy and still give the horror audience the practical, visceral carnage they paid to see. Imagine if during that sawmill siege, Coogler didn't cut to shadows or rely on heavy smoke to mask the kills. Imagine if we got brutal, full-frame, practical FX vampire destructions, showing the sheer physical ferocity in all its ugly, gory reality. If you take everything that already works about this story, the music, the hoodoo, the family tragedy, the systemic weight, and pair it with uncompromising, legendary on-screen violence, that is what takes a solid, respectable movie and elevates it into absolute horror greatness. That's what turns a good film into an untouchable genre classic. But because he cut away every single time the teeth sank in, it remains a brilliant period drama trapped inside a subpar horror film. And on the scare table, I'm always going to grade the horror first.
You know what? Fair point, Marcus. That's a fair point. Look, as a guy who spends his weekends knee-deep in slasher lore, practical effects breakdowns, and classic creature features, I get where you're coming from. I really do. At the end of the day, we're all horror hounds at this table. When you see a premise that pits WWY trench fighters, hoodoo magic, an ancient vampire lineage, and the KKK against each other in an abandoned sawmill, your inner gorehound immediately wants to see the screen dripping in practical effects. You want the full Evil Dead or The Thing level of visceral, unrated practical carnage. I can respect that perspective, because if any other director handed us a PG-13 feeling body count during a siege like that, I'd be right there alongside you tearing the script apart on the kill sheet. Where we split, and why I still consider Sinners an absolute horror masterpiece, is that I think Coogler's restraint is precisely what keeps the terror grounded in reality. To me, showing full-blown, explosive splatter during those kills would have shifted the tone into a fun, splatterpunk B-movie. And while I love B-movies, turning Sinners into a fun gore fest would have completely undermined the oppressive, suffocating weight of what those characters were actually enduring. The terror comes from the fact that you can't fight it off with a chainsaw. It's an inescapable, atmospheric dread that consumes everything it touches. So yeah, I get why your clipboard feels light tonight, Marcus. If you came in looking for a bloodbath, Coogler handed you a dark tragedy instead. But for me, the dread that lingers after the lights come up is what makes it an instant classic.
I don't know if I would call it an instant classic, but I'll give credit where credit is due, so you two don't brand me a total hater on the boards tomorrow. To Coogler's credit, the movie isn't dry. It is packed with atmosphere, blood, and plenty of visceral aftermath. I'm not sitting here saying the film is sanitized or squeaky clean. When that juke joint fight pops off in the third act, the floor is literally slick with dark, pooling blood. When Remek's horde crashes through the line, Coogler leaves zero doubt about the wreckage. You see the soaked floorboards, the bloody handprints dragged down the wood panels, the torn clothes, and the sheer physical carnage left in the wake of those attacks. And when sunrise hits and Remek's crew gets caught in the light, seeing them incinerate into ash and charred, smoking meat, that's classic, high-octane vampire destruction right there. The practical department definitely put in the work on the decorations. The bloody aftermath, the pale, dead-eyed makeup on Marion Stack, and the sheer volume of fake blood poured over that set is undeniable. My only griping point on the kill sheet, and I'm standing firm on this, is that I wanted the camera to stay locked on the impact moment. I wanted to see the fangs physically puncture the flesh in real time, the throat tearing open on camera, instead of panning over to the blood splashing against the wall 2 seconds later. So yeah, I'll give the movie its props. The after effects of the slaughter are heavy, gory, and painted all over that sawmill. I just wanted front row seats to the actual execution instead of walking in for the crime scene photo.
And that is the most reasonable take you've had all night, Marcus. You like the crime scene. You just wanted to see the executioner swing the axe live.
Hey, I'll take it. At least he's admitting the sawmill floor looked like a slaughterhouse by sunrise.
All right, we do this for every single audit on the scare table. The 2 final questions. What is the one thing you absolutely loved about this movie? And what is the one thing you would have changed? Shane, you're up first. Lock in your numbers.
Easy. The one thing I loved. The absolute spatial perfection of that 1932 setting. Building the climax inside an abandoned sawmill juke joint, where the physical geography of the building, the Hoodoo perimeter lines, and the claustrophobia of the surrounding Mississippi swamp all work together to create an inescapable trap, is pure structural brilliance. It elevated the entire film. The one thing I would have changed. The pacing right at the end of the second act. Right before the siege pops off, there's about a 10-minute stretch where the film stalls a bit while they're setting up the Grace Chow and Lisa plotline. It briefly drags the momentum down right when the tension should be boiling over.
Solid. Marcus, line up your targets.
You already know where I'm going with this. The one thing I loved. Miles Caton's performance as Sammy and that whole blues sequence where the music pierces the veil. The sheer sonic energy in that room when he starts shredding on the guitar and seeing the ancestral spirits materialize in the crowd. That was hands down one of the coolest, most haunting scenes put on film all year. The audio design alone was legendary. The one thing I would have changed. Keep the camera locked on the impact. I wanted Coogler to actually show the physical mechanics of the vampire bites during the siege instead of pulling back to shadows and woodpiles. Let us see the practical makeup FX and the actual gore live on screen instead of just handing us the bloody crime scene photo afterward.
And for me, the one thing I loved, the 1992 epilogue in Chicago, showing an elderly Sammy refusing immortality and choosing mortality, pain, and artistic authenticity over an immortal life of stolen agency, while an ageless Stack and Mary watch from the back of the club, was a profound, beautiful capstone on the entire tragedy. The one thing I would have changed, Jack O'Connell's character Remick. As terrifying as the hive mind was, I wanted just one quiet personal scene between Remick and Smoke where they went toe-to-toe ideologically before the siege started. Giving Remick a bit more individual screen time before he synced everyone to his voice would have made his colonial arrogance hit even harder.
And that locks down our full forensic audit on Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Whether you're leaning into the suffocating historical atmosphere and spatial brilliance like Chloe and me, or sitting with Marcus wishing the camera stayed locked on the entry wounds, there's no denying that this film laid down a massive, indelible footprint on the 2025 genre landscape. It's heavy, it's tragic, and it's a masterclass in how to fuse historical reality with supernatural dread. Before we officially kill the studio lights and lock down the perimeters for the night, you know how we close out every episode of The Scare Table. We don't just fade to silence, we spin a track that matches the exact frequency of the carnage we just put on the slab. Tonight, to honor the tragic, ancestral blues and heavy industrial decay of 1932 Clarksdale, we're queuing up a track that blends raw, mud-soaked riffs with crushing industrial bass and distorted synth-heavy drums. Head over to ghostfacehorror.com right now to run your stats through our interactive slasher survival odds calculator, check the updated entries on the master kill sheet, or keep the dark radio stream rolling 24/7 on the Ghostface Horror radio feed. For Chloe, Marcus, and myself, keep your perimeters tight, watch the tree line, and we'll see you back here next Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hit the track.
Counter turning into rust, like the front door south, the deadbolt down. Something ain't right in this dead-end town. She walked in smiling with teeth like knives, looking for a couple of wasted lives. Jukebox skipped on the country track, then the windows blew out and the glass turned black. Shadows on the patio, crawling up the wall. Bouncer took a bullet, but it didn't work at all. They don't want the money in the register drawer, they want the red rivers leaking on the floor. It's a neon blood and gasoline night. Barricade the doors, turn off the light. Four walls closing and the sun's miles away. We're fighting off the devil just to see another day. Pour a shot of high proof, light up a fuse in a hellhole bar. You got nothing left to lose. Over tables in the panic and the rage. Fangs in the darkness, eyes glowing red. Half of the regulars are already dead. Pool cues splintered into wooden stakes. Listen to the sound that a night stalker makes. Swarming on the roof, scratching on the door. This ain't a bar fight, this is a war. It's a neon blood and gasoline night. Barricade the doors, turn off the light. Four walls closing and the sun smiles away. We're fighting off the devils just to see another day. Smell of ozone, trapped in the dark and we're all alone. Look at the clock, 3 a.m. It's either us taking them or them taking them. Break a chair leg, soak it in the booze. sun's miles away. We're fighting off the devils just to see another day. For a shot of high proof, light up a fuse in a hellhole bar. You got nothing left to listen. Neon blood and gasoline night. Barricade the doors, turn off the light. Four walls closing and the sun's miles away. We're fighting off the devils just to see another day. For a shot of high proof, light up a fuse in a hellhole bar. You got nothing left to lose. Streak of daylight, breaking through the blinds. Leave the ash and the bodies behind. Wipe the blood off the bar. Last call, bloodsuckers. The scare table. Let the haunting begin.
The Scare Table is proudly brought to you by GhostfaceHorror.com, where independent horror journalism meets hardcore forensic genre analysis. Turn the volume up, lock the front gates, and head over to GhostfaceHorror.com to explore the complete blueprint of terror. The Slab is waiting.